Welcome back to another Target Up Tuesday. Today we're going to talk about the fundamentals of dry firing. Basically the advantages to it, how to do it correctly, and how to use it to improve your shooting. So Mike, what is the first thing that we need to consider when we're actually going to dry fire, be it at home or at the range?
Well, like anything else, the first thing you want to take into consideration is safety. Anytime you're dealing with firearms, safety should always be your number one priority. So with dry firing, our universal safety rules that we always preach, they don't change. Those safety rules are always in effect whether you're dry firing or live firing. So the first one is always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. So when we're talking about dry firing, if you want to dry fire at home, which is one of the great advantages of the drill of dry firing, is that you can do it at your house. You want to make sure that you're not pointing the gun either at anybody else that's in your house, or even at a wall where there's a room on the other side. Because that room could be occupied, and also you don't want to get into the habit, even if you know that room is empty at the moment, you want to establish a safe direction in your house so that you're always using that safe direction. So if you can find an external wall that doesn't back up to a neighbor's house, and if you can find a brick wall or something like that that's more reinforced, that's probably your best bet. Second safety rule is always know and verify the status of your gun. So when talking about dry firing, obviously we want to absolutely know for sure that our gun is unloaded at the moment that we're going to be dry firing. So the way you do that is locking the slide back. You want to check the chamber, the ejection port, and the magazine well. You want to visually and physically inspect those places. Make sure that your gun is unloaded before you start the drill of dry firing. Another extra step you can take is actually bringing your gun to a different room of where you keep your ammo. That just kind of adds one extra kind of safety buffer in there so that there's absolutely no chance that ammo is going to find its way into the gun. And then also another thing to keep in mind too, going along the lines of the status of your gun, is once you're done training with dry firing, you're done training. A lot of times accidents start to happen when people are dry firing. They think, after they're done dry firing, they load up their gun, they put it back where they keep their home defense gun, and then they think, I wanted to try that one method that I learned at the range today or that I saw online, and they pick up the gun and they go to dry fire, forgetting that they had already reloaded the gun and causing a negligent discharge, and that's something we absolutely want to avoid. So when you're done training, you're done training. And then the final one is, keep your finger off the trigger, straighten along the frame until you're ready to fire. In this instance, firing meaning dry fire, right? So when you're loading your gun, unloading your gun, when you're moving it from one room to another, your trigger finger should be straight and along the frame, out of that trigger guard, right? So as long as we follow those three rules, know and verify the status of your gun at all times, keep the gun pointed in a safe direction, and keep your trigger finger off add the trigger guard straight and along the frame until you're ready to actually start dry firing. You follow those safety rules and you'll have a safe and fun training experience. So now that we've talked about the safety rules, let's kind of talk about what dry firing is, what the benefit of it is, and what are some things we can do to get some good training out of dry firing.
All right. So we use this gun to basically demonstrate for you. When we decide that we're going to dry fire, you can do it either, like Mike said, at home or at the range. And when you actually do, you want to focus on all of your fundamentals, because that's what we're trying to do correctly, and also teach ourselves that muscle memory. So you want to have that good grip, you want to think about what your finger is doing, you want to think about that 60-40 comparison between your hands and on the grip, and then the fundamental thing of this is what your trigger finger is doing and what the trigger is doing when you're dry firing. If you're doing this at home, it's basically to go through the motions of correctly dry firing so that that's all you're focused on. If you're doing it with your gun and dry firing at home, you don't have to worry about the target, you don't have to worry about anything else, any other influence. The main thing that with dry firing is eliminating the shooting from your practice so that you can focus on what the little minute things are doing that you might not notice when your gun is actually shooting. You can also carry that over to the range. You can either dry fire before you start shooting, or if you've already started to shoot, you've done a few mags, and your body has started to kind of react to the gun going off, react to the recoil, to the noise, all those other things that your body might either subconsciously be dealing with, or you might actually be anticipating it happening. You can actually drop the mag and go back to dry firing. With our students, one of the biggest aha moments that we see them have is when they've shot, say, 5 rounds, and they're anticipating. And they don't know, and in the moment, they don't see it actually happening. Once they drop the mag and dry fire, they'll immediately see that dip happen, because their brain thinks that they're still around in there, they think there's still going to be recoil, and they anticipate it. Going back to that dry fire basically eliminates that and lets you see what your body is doing so that you can bring it back and correct it, because it's easy to come back to eliminate that flinch, eliminate that trigger jerk, eliminate any of those other things you might be doing when there's no shot going off. And then you go back and forth between actually shooting and dry firing. Doing this can help you save ammo and save money, like I said, either if you're doing it at home or if you're at the range. If you incorporate dry firing between your actual shots or between your actual mag changes and such, then you're spending time at the range focusing on your skills, but not having to shoot and pay for every single time you do pull the trigger. Another thing to remember and think about is that if you are going between putting a mag in there, dropping a mag out, then going through the repetition of putting a round in the chamber and firing either live or dry fire, all of those are fundamentals that you're practicing. Whether it's putting the mag in, racking the slide back, figuring out where the mag release is. If you do that with every single dry fire, then you're adding mag change practice, slide practice, malfunction practice. Do it correctly the right way every single time, and you're giving yourself basically free training. And you do have to make sure that you're doing it the right way every single time. And I'll often even sometimes, if I notice that I made a mistake, or if I noticed I flinched, if I noticed I didn't grab it right, keep on doing it and force yourself to dry fire correctly every single time until that dip is gone, until that trigger jerk is gone. It's a great tool. We still use it. We have watched our students use it. We try to make sure that they do it. Anything else that you would mention that is important when we decide that we're going to dry fire?
I think you covered pretty much all of it. The biggest thing is just getting that muscle memory. For every one time you do a trigger pull wrong, or you flinch, or whatever it is that you do wrong, you need to do it correct at least 2 times to kind of make up for it. Yeah. So, and dry firing, like you mentioned, is a great way to do that. It's a great way to do it inexpensively, to do it at home and wherever you might be. You can pick up your gun and dry fire as long as you make sure you follow those safety rules. So maybe the next time that you guys that are watching are at the range, try a drill where you fire 1 live round, drop the magazine, dry fire 5 times, immediately load up another live round, fire again, and just kind of watch of how much your shot group will kind of come in, and you'll kind of progress a lot faster than you would expect. And one of the most frustrating things when we go to the range, either like an open range or public range, is seeing these people shooting and just getting frustrated because their shots aren't going where they want the shots to go. And the way they try to fix that is just by they just keep shooting more. But if you're not fixing anything, you're not going to change anything on the target. So kind of giving you a challenge to try that next time you're at the range, and let us know how that works out for you. And as always, leave some feedback in the comments. Let us know if you try it, how it works out for you. Ask questions, leave whatever comments you want, and I think that's pretty much it.
One thing that I do want to touch on, and that might be in the minds of some people, is the myth that dry firing is bad for your gun. You can dry fire. Most modern guns made, and modern I would say in the last 30 years or so, are made and designed to withstand dry firing. If you are concerned about the mechanics and what it's doing to your firing pin, you can get dummy rounds or snap caps that help with that. Also, it'll change how the gun reacts, so you can actually practice a mag change or something with an actual round in there that'll prevent the slide from locking back. But modern guns should be able to do it. It's things that are older than 30 years that you might need to be careful about the fact that the firing pin or the hammer might be hitting on the steel of your gun. But if you don't take our word for it, look up and ask either some armorers or do some research. Dry firing is actually totally fine for your gun and we're not able to get to the point to where it's actually going to damage or hurt your gun. But I think that covers basically everything. Again, if you have any other questions or there's something we missed, please ask. Thanks for tuning in to Target Up Tuesday.
Join us next week for our next edition of Target Up Tuesday. See you guys then.